Well, at the stroke of midnight on the 15th of August 1947, when the world slept, India woke to freedom. 2 centuries of colonial rule had stripped India of its glory. Grappling with poverty and hunger, India went through a lot of struggles before it reached the heights where it is today. Yes, it's been 75 years of commemorating our freedom fighters who sacrificed their lives for the independence and unity of India, a diverse country with 28 states with multiple languages. What we want to do today, viewers, is bring to you those citizen voices, those senior citizens who are just as old as independent India. So let me introduce, joining us here on the program, Meghshyam Ajgaonkar, who is Executive Secretary of Mani Bhavan in Mumbai, Mr. Parshuram, who is a former ITC employee, and also A.K. Gupta, retired CA, retired chartered accountant, also with us. Let me first, in fact, thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. Very good evening to the two of you. I'm hoping my third panelist will join us soon. Before I go to my guests, here's a special report, a tale of independent India. Let's listen in, and then we'll bring in our guests into the program.
At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom.
Our freedom fighters fought long and hard for the independence that we enjoy today. After almost 200 years of struggle, India was freed of the British rule on August 15, 1947. Since then, India has come a long way in transforming itself as a nation. So as we prepare to hoist the national flag on the 75th year of independence, let us take a look at all the milestones that we hit in the last 75 years. The first one has to be India's first flag hoisting after independence. Our first Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, delivered the Tryst with Destiny speech in the Parliament just before the clock struck 12 on August 14th, and on August 15th, he hoisted the national flag atop Lahori Gate of the Red Fort in Delhi. In 1950, India became a republic country. On 26 November, the Constituent Assembly of India adopted the Indian Constitution, and just 2 months later, on Republic Day, it came into effect. 1952 saw the introduction of Lok Sabha elections. General elections were held between 25th October 1951 and 21st February 1952. Pandit Nehru became the first democratically elected Prime Minister of India. The total Lok Sabha seats at the time were 489, and the total number of eligible voters was 17.3 crores. In 1953, Nehru nationalized 9 airlines under the Air Corporations Act. He brought them under 2 PSCs, Indian Airlines and Air India International. 1963 saw India's first rocket launch. The taking off of the sounding rocket from Kerala marked the beginning of the Indian space program. Dr. Vikram Sarabhai and Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam were the brainchild of this achievement. In 1966, Indira Gandhi became the first female Prime Minister of India. After the sudden death of Lal Bahadur Shastri, Gandhi was named the leader of the Congress Party. In 1969, ISRO was formed with a vision to develop and harness space technology in national development. Pandit Nehru and Dr. Vikram Sarabhai are considered to be the founding fathers of the Indian space program. In 1975, Aryabhatta, India's first unmanned satellite, was launched into space. And it was in 1982 that Color TV was first introduced in India. It was the same year that DD also became a national channel. The first color program to be aired was the live telecast of Independence Day Parade that year, which was followed by Asian Games that were being held in Delhi. Now, 1983 changed the fate of cricket in India. The team created history by winning its first ever World Cup by defeating West Indies. This was the first time that an Asian nation even reached the World Cup final. In 1984, Rakesh Sharma became the first Indian astronaut to go into space in a joint mission. The Agni missile was successfully launched in 1989, and it was capable of carrying a payload of 1000 kgs. Come 1995, the first metros were introduced. The then Prime Minister H.D. Deve Gowda and Delhi government set up a company called the Delhi Metro Rail Corporation. It was in 2007 that India saw its first female president, Pratibha Patil. She is an Indian politician and lawyer who served as a president from 2007 to 2012. Chandrayaan-1 was the first Indian lunar probe to be launched by the ISRO in 2008. This was a product of our country's efforts in research and development of its own technology to explore the moon. In a landmark move, Education became a fundamental right of children in 2010. When the Right to Education Act came into force, India became one of 135 countries to make education a fundamental right for every child. In 2014, India embarked on a Mars mission also known as Mangalyaan. A space probe orbiting Mars was launched by the ISRO to study the planet. In the same year, the Supreme Court passed a judgment declaring that transgender people will now officially be considered as a third gender and that the fundamental rights under Indian Constitution will be equally applicable to them. In yet another historic judgment, Supreme Court in 2018 decriminalized Section 377 of the Indian Penal Code, which legalizes homosexual relationships. Finally, in 2022, India witnessed a tribal woman president for the first time. Srimati Draupadi Murmu is only the second female after Pratibha Patil to hold the office.
Well, we wanted to walk you through the history of this country before we go into this conversation with the gentlemen who are with me here on the program. Mr. Ajgaonkar, coming to you first. India at 75. This is our platinum jubilee year. What has been your proudest moment so far, sir, about our country?
I think we have made enough progress in all the matters. Now we can go even to space and do many more things. But henceforth, we should work for the peace. Just now I was seeing those Atari Borders program and how those soldiers were fighting, means they are acting like as if they are fighting to each other. We should henceforth, we should stop all those things, particularly to our neighbor nations. We should be, our attitude should be very peacefully.
Okay.
That's what I think. If we do this thing, then only we can proceed ahead smoothly. Mahatma Gandhi particularly has shown us many ways of peaceful ways. He was our torch bearer, and we should try to follow his way. That's my attitude.
Yes, it's a very mature point of view, and I'm sure it comes from experience. You are working, in fact, as the Executive Secretary of the Money Bhavan, which is here in Mumbai as a center for Mahatma Gandhi. So obviously, your point of view, of course, reflects a certain sentiment to do with Gandhiji, with the Mahatma. I want to bring in Mr. Gupta as well into the conversation. Mr. Gupta, you are also born in the year of India's independence. You would have your earliest memories perhaps from 1950s, and now we are in 2020s. Literally, 7.5 decades later since you were born, you've aged and matured along with the country. How does it feel? And since the time the nation was born up till now, living through literally like the childhood years of the country, as it were, what has been the biggest change you see?
Good evening and happy Independence Day to everyone on the panel and to the audience.
Thank you so much.
See, looking to the background, we were born in a time when there was hardly any digital services available. We used to learn and write on the wooden plank, commonly known as takhti, with a ink and a kalam. Since then, the things have been changing. I graduated and did my chartered accountancy in 1973. I joined Industrial House by the name of DCM. At that time, there were various difficulties of entering into industry. It was all licenses which were granted by the government for various products, for various industries, and there was not much of competition, and the industry was rather controlling the prices. Rather, in 1991, when the delicensing came, the things became happier and wealthier for the consumer. The industry was allowed to put up any industry one wanted to. Lot of investment came into the industry, and with the result, industrial growth of the country grew very manifold. And when in 1947, when our economy size was 2,97,80,000 crores, lakh crores, today it is plus 300 trillion, $3 trillion.
Yes. Right. So that's
In the
yes. You're talking about the
in the
economic growth. Yes, carry on, sir. Sorry to interrupt you. Carry on.
in the process, the government has been doing various reforms which have helped the country grow. First and foremost was the delicensing in 1991 and the liberalization, under which licensing of many things were scrapped and the industry was allowed to grow of its own. Then major reforms were done from 2014 onwards. Some of them are like demonetization, which brought in the hidden money into the economy, and the economy grew up sharply. GST was another reform. We were having multiple taxations in various states. Various states were having various taxation. There were various formalities of forms and other things, check post. 2016, the GST was introduced, constitutional amendments were made, and with the result, the the taxation hassles of the producer, of the consumer, were minimized, and everything was streamlined in a
Mr.
sense
Gupta, can I
that
ask you a question here on
please,
demonetization and GST since you
yes,
brought it up? Are
yes,
you, from your experience and exposure, excuse me, believe that these two reforms have helped the country? Have they been useful for the economy?
they have indeed been useful for the economy. Especially the GST has been a lot of comfort for the economy when the people were struggling with various taxations of different states. Selling from one state to another would invite some tax or the other. With the introduction of demonetization, this GST, everything has been streamlined, and you just fill in the forms online and the things are done.
Okay, so that's
Rather,
that's a pleasant change that you've seen in your lifetime. You would have perhaps,
yes,
as a chartered accountant, seen people struggling through these things which have now been smoothened out, streamlined. Technology has
I have,
helped us a lot in that respect.
yes, I have myself been facing those difficulties of Form 38, Form 31, C forms, F forms. Everything was there, and if there is a mistake in one of the forms in filling by inadvertency, then you are penalized for many things. For multiple penalties are there. Then the goods will be impounded, and you have to pay penalty, and then only the goods will be. In case if they are perishable, they will be just losing its value.
And some of us are fortunate to be born into independent India because a lot of progress has happened ever since in leaps and bounds. Technology has helped us make life easier. Mr. Ajgaonkar, I want to also ask you that, when you see the youths today, and, you have seen the country over the years. When you see the youth today, is there anything significantly different about today's youth that you notice since you have seen the country over the years?
Yes, I can say that today's youths particularly, they are very bright, and you can say they are cultured also. They will not go after any leader who is saying just to throw stones on each other, and they will stay back on this. So today's youth is very bright, they are cultured, and I think we should show them the way of progress, of particularly whichever this thing. completely. Means appropriate technology, we should show them for the further progress, because we don't want so superior technology, I can say, because we have increased 4 times actually. When we were liberated, we were 35,000. Now we are 35 crores. Now we are 140 crores nearly. So now we should apply whatever things for our progress, which can be spotless actually.
Yes.
Means there should not be any sort of fight and other things. We should move towards peaceful way. If we
So,
want to progress, we should very peacefully we do.
right.
That's my idea, please. That's what
Yes.
Mahatma Gandhi has shown us. So I think that appropriate technology will be absolutely good.
The center that you
What
are heading, it's
today's
a
world-
museum and a historical building. For the sake of our viewers, let me just tell you that was Mahatma Gandhi's headquarters for 17 years, from 1917 to 1934. Mr. Ajgaonkar today is with us. He is the General Secretary of this particular Mani Bhavan located in Mumbai, and therefore he's bringing to us the references of Mahatma Gandhi. I want to also ask you here that do you find Gandhi more relevant today? A lot of people think that these are polarized times. The country is divided along religious lines. The plurality that we used to celebrate somehow, for many of us, who report day-to-day events, have seen that itself has become divisive in nature. What is your view? Is Gandhi more relevant today than he was ever before?
Yes, madam. I think Gandhi is very much relevant today. It was never before as he is relevant today, because you can see we are having fights going on everywhere. But if we try to conquer the people by love and avoid hates, etc., that will be very ideal. And I think that's what Mahatma Gandhi
Can
was saying, or all other people, even general people in India and abroad, they think, because we meet hundreds of people daily, and 99% of them are, uh, uh, they want peace actually in their life.
Absolutely. Right.
Yeah, that's why I am insisting this thing again and again, that Mahatma Gandhi, Vinoba Bhave, all those people, Jayaprakash Narayan, all those people have shown us the way of the peace, and we should move on that way. Then
Absolutely. Our
only I
freedom
think our
fighters
future
and
will be bright.
the father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, has shown us the way. Mr. Ajgaonkar is telling us, let's go back to that path that Gandhi showed us. That's an important point of view. Mr. Gupta, of all the events that we talk about that this country has gone through, whether it's the China War in the 1960s, the emergency period, the Kargil War, the assassination of our former prime ministers, riots, terror attacks, you have seen it all. What is that one event that you would say that perhaps would have the highest impact in your mind?
You see, every event, for that matter, has its own impact. The best event, I will say, not the best, but in terms of the better of the worst, it was the 1971 war, where we helped in liberation of Bangladesh from Pakistan. And in the process, a lot of our soldiers, about 100,000, which were meant for the border with East Bengal, then East Bengal, and now Bangladesh, were freed from manning those borders, and they were available for other borders. And rather, there might have been a reduction in the number of forces for that matter.
Right.
Otherwise, social, for that matter, social harmony. For social harmony, these communal rights are the worst thing, and we must build up the social harmony. And with that, for that matter, there should be a peace. and there should not be a hate for by one religion for the other religion.
Yes, that's a very important note to end this program with. I think both panelists have echoed each other's sentiment, at least in that respect, that what we look forward is social harmony, what we look forward is unity in diversity, something that the Prime Minister also very forcefully underlined in his Independence Day speech from the ramparts of the Red Fort. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us here on this special program.